this is Jason Mitchell. I got a really cool box in the mail this week from a gentleman who sent me 11 old Iversons, and he wants me to tune them up for him. So I thought it would be fun to show them to you. It's actually a way for you to see virtually all of our line of calls, and I can walk you through each call and then maybe show you the results of when I'm done tuning them, or as I'm tuning them. So anyway, let's take a look at them. So the first call I want to show you is this beautiful old original EV Iverson duck call. Just a beautiful old call. The gentleman who sent these calls along said that his grandfather had passed this down to him. You can see the old hole that he used to put in the stopper for the lanyard. My dad stopped doing that because I think he felt like, and I agree with him, it affected the sound too much. But gentleman carved his name in the side. So this is a really, really beautiful old Iverson duck call. 1967 was the year it was built. You can tell on the back of old Iversons, if you look closely enough, you'll see an R, a 7, and then an Iverson stamp. So pre-1963, Iverson would stamp EV Iverson. In 1963, he shaved off the EV and just left it as Iverson, which my dad continued to stamp. So the number refers to the last number of the year. So in this case, it would be in 1967, post 63, because there's no EV. R stands for Rosewood. It's a gorgeous old call. It's got a little bit more, kind of a newer reed and a newer cork, I can tell in there. That's the 984L. This is basically the primary call that Mr. Iverson made all his years. And we refer to this as the old style standard duck call. Standard means standard in size. We made later in life, my dad made some shorter old style, what we call old style timber calls that were about this size. Well, that's actually a champ call, but just to give you an idea. So this is an old style made by Mr. Iverson. This is an old style made by my dad. This is also standard, but you see there's a different reed in this one. This one's got a 984W reed. In the old style duck call, you can get two kinds of reeds. You can get a wide 984W or a 984L. The wide's going to be heavier, deeper. 984L is going to be a little lighter, easier to blow, a little higher in pitch. So those are the two. This is kind of a cool one too. This is also a rosewood with a brass band. And there's kind of another one just like it, also with a 984 reed in that one. So he's got three old style standard duck calls. Just to give you an idea of sort of what the design differences looked like through the years. There are those. So those are kind of cool. The next one in the box are several Rosewood Super Standards. This is a Rosewood Super Standard. I believe this is also Rosewood Super Standard. A couple differences here. You can see the development in this call. A couple things. One is he doesn't have his cork all the way back on that one. Probably why he needs a tune on it. One of the reasons. But anyway, at some point my dad developed an O-ring fitting system to keep pressure off the barrel because, you know, wood swells and contract in weather, or if you're getting it wet and dry in your truck and then out in the blind. But this is a new style standard duck call, standard for the size. And you can see a wider, shorter reed in here. In two different iterations. This is probably 80s, this is probably 90s. But they've also, so the old style, the Rosewood, the super standards, or new style super standards come with either an 884W or an 884L. The 884W is the standard reed, it's wide. 884L is a lighter option. I don't think I have any here. But just to give you an idea of the difference in reed with the new style. The old style's quite a bit longer, so you have a shorter, little snappier reed. In my opinion, the new style calls have a much more responsive, low end, subtle, and they ring better on the high end, much more smoother up the scale. Some of your traditionalists will say, well, it doesn't have the rasp that I'm used to, and yeah, that's fair to say. And put these calls back. Those are your old style calls. And then I think I have one more in here. I gotta look in here real quick. This is an old ebony. Is that an ebony? Yeah, it's an old ebony. This is actually, it's funny. It says 784L. That's labeled wrong. That's funny. It should be a 984L. That's an old style standard duck call. That's a cool old call too. This one was marked with a note. That's why I kept it separately over here. The rest of these, this is a World Champion field call. So these are the ones that my dad made in the 80s to compete in the World Championship duck calls. A bunch of guys in California were starting to compete and came to Dad to make a bunch of calls. And David Jane actually, of Clovis, California, won the World Champion duck calling competition in 1987 in Stuttgart with a call very similar to this. So you can see, in this case, it's got a bent platform straight reed, and as you saw in these other ones, these all the traditional Iversons have bent reeds, straight platform. So that's a nice old World Champion field. That would have been sort of a 90s with the O-ring fitting system. Needs a little juice on that. This one here is kind of an old, this is actually a new style super timber. So this one kind of marries with this one. This is the timber version. This is a new style super timber. Again, shorter reed, bent, but this comes with what then was called an 88HB, now known as the 884W. It also comes with a lighter 884L option. But these are timber calls, a little easier to blow, a little shorter register, as you can see, excuse me, shorter barrel system. So these are going to be a little deeper in tone, the super standards, and the super timbers are going to be higher in pitch, a little easier to blow on the low end, a little subtler and quieter. But these ring, this is a little deeper. So those are an example of the new style calls. What else do we got in here? Lots of good calls. Another World Champion field, but this one does not have the O-ring. It's probably a call in the 80s. Nice old beautiful wood on that call. This is another World Champion. This is older, original. This would have been an 80s call, no O-ring. I'm sure these sound great. Need a little cleanup, I'll do that. And then another World Champion field. You can see a variety of numbers on just a variety of different reeds that come with. I think that's got an 18WC. And that's it. That's all we have. Hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. Till next time, and we'll see you later.